Welcome and thank you for joining us on today's live broadcast. I'm here basically to tell us what has been going on over the last couple of hours in our country, Nigeria. Well, reports reaching us is that the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission has sealed a supermarket in Abuja over what they called unfair pricing and sale of expired goods. Well, this is actually coming on the heels of the plan for them to actually regulate consumer protection and actually regulate prices of goods. And so they came out to lock this supermarket, and it's named For You Supermarket in Abuja, and they said it's over unfair pricing. Let's just take a listen to exactly what transpired, and we'll come back and have this discussion.
Stealing, obstructing, so then removing, and then you refuse to disclose the identity. That is why we have to seal. So the next instruction we have, please, as the general manager, ask all your staff, you know the number that are on duty, ask them to evacuate. Those that have come in, they will remain. We will deal with them, sell to them, ensure that they are able to leave. Your staff, nobody should remain here until all that rice, first and foremost, you evacuate them by yourself. So you arrange for the staff to bring them all down. Every rice that is upstairs, you evacuate all of it, and then you see. Then when you come and explain how you are in this business, and you give us satisfactory assurance that you know what you are doing in this business, you will be allowed to continue the business. As at now, neither you or the suppliers have any clue about what we're talking about as far as consumer safety is concerned in Nigeria. So we will not continue to allow consumers to come to patronize this particular supermarket until we have a written assurance that you know what you're doing. At this moment, we don't. It's good that you are sorry. That's step one, and we accept the sorry. But for consumers' interest, we will seal this place for them. So I need you to authorize your staff so that they leave the premises, this supermarket. Your staff, everybody that resumed for work, they must leave. And you give us assurance that there's no more staff, there's no staff remaining here when we seal them. In the meanwhile, who are the people in charge of rice? The people that are in charge of rice, because apart from the two of them, they're not around.
Well, very interesting indeed. They said it is for consumer protection and consumer rights and protection, right? But this is particularly nice, but you have to ask very salient questions because this is not the only supermarket in Abuja, right? And then if for any reason that you decided to go on some kind of investigation or market analysis to see the people that are supposedly selling with a hiked price or with unfair prices, this should not be the only, supermarket that is affected, because at least you will need a minimum of say 5 supermarkets so you do this investigation thoroughly. But it's looking like maybe they have a particular bone to pick with these people, and that is the reason why they are coming after them. Because what criteria are we defining or saying these people are pricing their goods unfairly? Because particularly it's a privately owned institution, and it's possible that they are selling at the rates which they buy, right? So you cannot tell them or try to choose the price they're going to sell their goods, because you probably don't know how much it is they bought from the market. If you're going to try to regulate their prices, then the price regulation should start from the markets, exactly from where the suppliers of these goods are coming from, so that you know that, oh, okay, you know what, they are buying at a certain rate, and then you monitor the rate at which they sell to the consumers, not just coming out to say, oh, okay, you're pricing your goods unfairly. And if truly that they're selling on expired goods, I think it is more it's better for them to do investigation, proper investigation, before coming to lock down somebody's business, because it is not very friendly to the people. It's anti-people, because there are people out here whose means of livelihood is by working for these supermarkets. And so I think it should have been better, even if the intentions are particularly nice or good per se, but I think the delivery or the way they are going about it is not very, very right, because there are people whose means of livelihood is coming from working at that supermarket. So you're going to be sending them out of jobs, right? And we know the current situation of the country and the current employment situation. It is a very precarious situation. And so instead of you to actually have people losing the little jobs that we have, it is better you actually go back to the drawing board. Maybe call the management of these supermarkets and say, you know what, let's actually go to the drawing board and talk about this, than actually coming out to say we are closing down this place, because a lot of people depend on this place for their daily needs. Well, let's take the tweets of some netizens and what they had to say particularly about this lock. Well, this is coming from Collins Okpara, and he says conducting price enforcement in Abuja supermarkets or even Nigeria at large might seem like a commendable move on the surface, but it is merely scratching the surface of a much deeper issue. While superficial actions like this may garner praise, they fail to address the systematic issues that lead to price gouging and exploitation of consumers. What about the underlying factors driving inflation and economic hardship? What about the lack of regulations to hold businesses accountable for fair pricing practices? This is nothing more than a band-aid solution to a gaping wound, and until meaningful reforms are implemented, consumers will continue to suffer at the hands of unscrupulous businesses. This is a disgraceful attempt to placate the public while avoiding real accountability. Well, just very similar to the points I actually had to raise, because it is, like he said, a band-aid solution to a very big and gaping festering wound. Because if you say you're trying to regulate the prices of goods, you should also regulate or take into cognizance inflation and economic hardship, because I want to believe that those people are selling as they buy. So it is not enough to say, oh, unfair pricing, so you're locking down someone's business. If you're going to try to regulate the price, you should also take into consideration the fact that there is a lot of inflation going on in the country right now, and they're probably selling as to what they are actually, or what they actually bought from the market. But anyways, moving on from that, we have the drama going on in Kogi State, as EFCC has tried all its possible best from the last reports we got within the last couple of days to actually apprehend the ex-Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello to actually come and answer to charges, 19 count charges that were raised against him, bordering on money laundering and diversion of public funds. And so we've seen the drama that has been going on. But recently, after the current Kogi State Governor, in the person of Ododo, probably came out to say, okay, you know what, he's trying to hide the back of his predecessor by going to rescue him from the hands of the people, of the EFCC people who were trying to apprehend him at his Abuja residence. Well, the Minister of Justice had actually come out recently, yesterday to be precise, to write a letter warning those who are trying to obstruct justice or obstructing the EFCC from carrying out its lawful duty. Well, it is on the screen, the particular letter. It says, press release, EFCC should not be obstructed from performing its lawful duty. The contents of the letter reads, the bizarre drama confronting the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in the course of its efforts to perform its statutory duty has come to my notice as Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice as a matter of very grave concern. It is now beyond doubt that the EFCC is given power by the law to invite any person of interest to interact with them in the course of their investigation into any matter regardless of status. Emphasis on regardless of status. Therefore, the least that we can all do when invited is not to put any obstruction in the way of EFCC, but to honorably answer their invitation. A situation where public officials who are themselves subject to protection by the law enforcement agents will set up a stratagem of obstruction to the civil and commendable efforts of the EFCC to perform its duty is, to say the least, insufferably disquieting. A flight from the law does not resolve issues at stake, but only exacerbates it. I state unequivocally that I stand for the rule of law, and I will promptly call EFCC and indeed any other agency to order when there is indication of any transgression of the fundamental rights of any Nigerian by any of the agencies, but I also tenaciously hold the view that institutions of state should be allowed to function effectively and efficiently. Nigeria has a vibrant judicial system that is capable of protecting everyone who follows the rule of law in seeking protection. I therefore encourage everyone and anyone who has been invited by the EFCC or any other agency to immediately toe the path of decency and civility by honoring such invitation instead of embarking on a temporizing self-help and escapism that can only put our country in a bad light before the rest of the world. Well, he said toe the line of decency and civility, and he signed it. This is Lateef O. Fagbemi San, Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice particularly. Well, we've seen what he had to say, and these are the points we've been raising since. Toe the line of decency and civility. If you're being invited by whatever enforcement agency to answer to whatever accusations they are layering against you, all you have to do is to actually come out and say, you know what, this is me and I'm here to answer to the questions you guys have. So choose decorum, choose decency, choose civility, right? And so we'll see this. But it's very interesting because I think the EFCC actually has some questions to answer on themselves because they're not being very transparent with this process. Some days ago, they came out to say, you know what, the IGP came out to say that he has withdrawn all the police officers that is attached to the ex-governor of Kogi State, that's Governor Yahaya Bello, right? He came out to say he's actually withdrawing these policemen. And it's interesting to see, after withdrawing the policemen, you also said that you declared him wanted because you've been unable to reach him. And so my question is, if you're actually declaring him wanted and you have members of your team, right, that are actually stationed there to guide him and to provide security to him, does it not make common sense to say, you know what, you're going to give those people or those men the same jurisdiction to say, you know what, arrest this man, because you're calling for the withdrawal of protection or security protection by your same men, the same members of your the same people you command, who are under your command and under your jurisprudence. You are actually calling them to withdraw them, and at the same time you are actually declaring this man wanted. So it's just contradicting, because the truth is, if you're actually trying to get this man apprehended, you have a lot of security details that work under you providing security to this man, and the least you could really just do is to actually give them the same authority to act in to actually just arrest this man. So I think they're just going on a wild goose chase. They are not very transparent with their dealings, especially as it relates to this man, because these are men that are under the Nigerian police force, which you command here. And if you have anything particularly to say or to have them do, you can just direct them to do that, particularly. And so that is really the basics of what is going on all over the country currently. And we're going to report to you as some more reports are made available to us concerning this issue. Right, and so before I leave, it's important that I mention the Obidient Family Cooperative, right? And in the spirit of moving from consumption to production, it's necessary that as a people, we set up these grassroots mobilizations, this structure, so we're able to redefine our options properly in 2027. And so if you are an Obidient or particularly a well-meaning Nigerian, and you're interested in this business venture that is going to have us moving from consumption to production, you can just click the link in the description box of this video and actually join the WhatsApp platform to have conversations with other Nigerians on how to move the country forward and actually set up this global or these grassroots structures we are talking about. And so before I leave the studio, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe particularly to this video. Help us amplify our voices, because that is the majority of what you can do for us at the Obidient Family Cooperative, or rather the Obidient Family TV. Till I come your way next time, bye for now.
Yahaya Bello is a man on the run, with the EFCC hot on his trail with a 19-count charge bordering on money laundering filed against him. With his whereabouts unknown, his case came up on Thursday at the Federal High Court Abuja before Kanu, the same trial judge who 24 hours earlier granted a warrant for his arrest. Abdul Wahab Mohammed, who represented Mr. Bello in court when the matter was called for his arraignment, challenged the validity of the charge on the ground that the court lacks jurisdiction. The senior lawyer who urged the court to vacate the arrest warrant said a high court of Kogi had on February 9 restrained the anti-graft agency from arresting, detaining, or prosecuting Bello. Bello's counsel also objected to the application by EFCC's counsel, Kemi Pinero, to serve the charge on his client's behalf, as it's a criminal trial. However, Pinero argued that Bello, with the aid of his counsel, seemed to be on a quest to frustrate the trial by evading service of charge. The prosecutor therefore says the anti-graft agency will go all out to arrest Yahaya Bello ahead of the April 23 date fixed by the trial judge to rule on the mode of service.
We have informed the court that by virtue of section 287 of the Constitution, all persons are obliged to obey the court order. The court order is for his production on the next adjourned date, and the state will ensure that it's produced in court. Section 12 of AJA also allows a law enforcement agent to break down any premises where a defendant may be hiding. And so the state will invoke all its powers within the law to ensure that it's produced in court for the purpose of arraignment, and it's in his own interest. So he can come and plead his innocence or take his plea as to whatever he wants to say.
Meanwhile, the EFCC has released wanted posters of Yahaya Bello. The former Kogi State Governor evaded arrest at his Wuse home after the Kogi State Governor, Usman Ododo, and the company of police operatives allegedly whisked him away to a destination unknown, giving another twist to the unfolding drama.
Shifting focus to Africa now, our next report is a glaring example of irony that has left millions of Nigerians fuming. The country's poverty alleviation minister has been accused of stealing from the poor. 37-year-old Betta Edu is under fire over alleged diversion of public money into her own personal accounts. In the latest, a financial watchdog has recovered $24 million that was traced to over 50 private bank accounts. Now, this comes as a big embarrassment for Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu, who was elected last year after promising to rid the country of corruption and poverty. Our next report explains.
Can you imagine a traffic cop breaking road safety rules? Or those preaching fight against climate change taking a private jet ride? Well, while the latter may not be unimaginable, it is certainly ironic. The next glaring example of dramatic irony is from Nigeria, where the country's poverty alleviation minister has been accused of stealing from the poor. This is Betta Edu. She is facing an intense probe over corruption charges. Nigeria's financial watchdog has recovered 30 billion naira or $24 billion that were traced to more than 50 bank accounts. In January, Nigerian President Bola Tinubu suspended Edu and ordered a probe into her ministry over alleged diversion of $640,000 of public money into personal bank accounts. The 37-year-old poverty alleviation minister denies any wrongdoing. Her office says she did approve the transfer into a personal account which was not in her name, but said it was for the implementation of grants to vulnerable groups. Now, the country's financial watchdog says it has found many angles to examine in this case. It has also extended the investigation to the entire network of Nigeria's social investment programs. The suspension of a minister is a rare occurrence in Nigeria. Over years, there has also been a cloud of secrecy that surrounds governance in the country. Details of how officials get and use public funds are often withheld. So when details of the latest corruption scandal began trickling in, it left the citizens fuming. They're calling for the minister to be fired. Millions of people in Africa's most populous country are facing extreme levels of poverty. The government's harsh economic policies have further squeezed their livelihoods. In the year 2023, Bola Tinubu was elected president after promising to rid the country of chronic corruption and extreme poverty. He said his government is committed to uphold the highest standards of integrity, transparency and accountability in how Nigeria's resources are managed. If Betta Edu is proven guilty, this could be President Tinubu's chance to fulfill his biggest poll promise. Will the Nigerian president take the lead in the country's fight against corruption?
you.